Hello everyone! Today I'm going to show you in this tutorial how you can quickly and easily stretch beautiful socks. They really keep you warm for the winter and are also suitable for beginners, as it is a relatively simple sock model. They are suitable for both women's and men's sizes. The sizes will fit you. And then we have already reached the top. I have now knitted my socks in approximately size 37. That gives about 1490 titos from the end of the ferry here along the straight line. A little trick when knitting your own socks, whether for yourself or for friends or acquaintances, is to simply try them on. If the sock goes over the little lake, then it has the perfect length to start with the toe. So now our sock is almost finished. We start with the top. We will make sure to start at the ferry so that we have a nice line and proceed as follows. We knit the first needle normally, making our right stitches until the last two stitches, which we knit together. On the second needle, we then knit the first two stitches together and then continue to knit only knit stitches. The third needle looks like the first one again. The odd and even needles are always the same. That means we knit our right stitches and knit the last two stitches together. And on the fourth needle, we again knit the first two stitches together and then continue with only knit stitches. So let's start with our knit stitches. So the last two stitches are knitted together as a knit stitch. That means we go into the back loop like we would for a normal knit stitch. Then we go through to the front so that we have both loops, grab our yarn as we always do for the knit stitch and pull it through. Do the same with the second needle. Then we take the first two stitches together, insert from the back, pull through both stitches, grab the yarn and done. And again, only knit stitches. Now the third needle comes back in, an odd needle so to speak, which means the last two stitches will be knitted together. Start with knit stitches. Up to the last two stitches, we will knit them together again. We pick up from the back and through the fourth needle, knitting the first two stitches together with the straight needle again. So by now, there should be only 13 stitches on each needle for my size, which is 37 or 38. The second stitch is simply knitted continuously with knit stitches, which means we don't decrease stitches at the ends. Otherwise, our tip would become too pointed. I simply pull our stitches through normally. I always make sure to knit relatively tightly at the transition here. Otherwise, the tip tends to gather together, and these stitches stick out a bit, which is simply more aesthetically pleasing, so that our socks look nice and even. And just like that, we have knitted through our 4 needles again and have arrived back at the heel. In the next round, we will pick up stitches again. As always, as shown in the first round, the odd needles, namely 1 and 3, always take the last two stitches, while the even needles, namely 2 and 4, always take the first two. The purpose of this is that when you lay our socks down, the tip comes together here. If you lose weight in a different area now, it will look uneven and crooked, and it just won't look nice. Then we start again with the knit stitches, our first needle. Knit the last 2 stitches together on the odd needle. We take it from the back, grab the thread and pull it through. Second needle, straight needle, the first 2 together. Third needle, start again with knit stitches on the odd needle, so knit the last 2 together. Knit the back again like a knit stitch, insert through the front and pull and bring our yarn over. The only downside to knitting relatively tightly here is that when you knit them together, it often feels a bit tight. But for that, our sock will be nice and even afterwards. We have already completed the third round. We have reached the heel again. The next round will be knitted entirely with knit stitches again. So nothing is pieced together, and we basically take turns. One round, always knitting together, one round to knit through so that our tip doesn't become too pointy. We will do this until there are only 6 stitches left on each needle. So we will then find that there are still only 6 stitches on my needle. This is also independent of how many stitches I originally cast on. So, for example, when it comes to men's socks in size 45, we alternate the rows that are decreased with the normally knitted rows until we have only 6 stitches left on one needle. Now you can clearly see that the tip is slowly coming together. Here is the heel, and here it goes up nicely and evenly. It won't get any harder now. The only difference now is that we will skip the rows that we simply knitted with knit stitches, meaning the rows without decreases. That means we always knit the last 2 stitches together on the odd rows and the first 2 on the even rows. We will do this until we have only 3 stitches left on each needle. They also mix the last 2 together and the first 2 together. The next round is already over again. Now we only have 5 stitches left on each needle. Now it's really going to be quick. That means we will have our finished sock in a few minutes. Good, and we are already starting the final round for our sock. We still have 3 stitches on each needle. Then it is knitted together so that our tip doesn't become too pointy. So, the last needle for this sock. The first 2 together, So we are done. Alright, we cut our thread, grab a needle, and now I'm going to show you quickly how to go from the front here into the stitch, pierce through with the needle, and pull the stitch off the needle. Once again, how we would knit a right stitch. Go in, push through, and pull it off the needle. Still, one needle is being made after another. Pierce in the front and pull through. So with the last two needles, there's finally some space again. What is really the only somewhat important thing here is to make sure that the stitches on the back needle, especially when there are more of them, are nicely centered and don't slip off. When you lose weight from the front. So, we're breaking through again. The last three. So, we are almost done now. That means we have now removed our tip and are now pushing the needle through this little hole in the front. And turn the sock inside out. So let's tighten it a bit so that we don't have a gap in the front. And we'll sew the thing up. Just poke it and go around once. I usually sew with about 6 stitches. Simply that the thread holds well. And let's cut the thread relatively short. Let's sew in our starting thread here. Whoever used my trick still has a relatively large gap here. That means we insert here into the first solid stitch. That's basically the second trick. And they take the matter seriously. We already have a nice even edge. I usually sew from one stitch into the next stitch so that the thing stays nice and tight. And then just back and forth here. I usually gather everything down to the bottom because it's just really easy to cut it there. Because our cuff at the top is also there, it is already stretchy. And otherwise, the thread tends to slip out easily. Hope you enjoyed my video. And we'll see each other again.